to the site, and we welcome in the Chaos Crew. See, Bryant McFadden is an honorary member now of the Chaos Crew. Normally, it's Josh Pate, the host of the Late Kick, with Big Game Dennis Dodd. Big Game Dennis Dodd had some post-game duties for CBS, and now BMAC is an honorary member of the Chaos Crew. BMAC, what the heck just happened?
Chaos at its finest. I'm so entertained. It was an outstanding ball game, first and foremost. Georgia played, physical, stop-play football, but Alabama was just better. Yeah. You talk about some of the mishaps that we saw from Georgia, Alabama being able to execute and take advantage of those mishaps. And because of that, we saw a huge win for Alabama. Now the chaos starts for us to talk about, and of course we got to ultimately wait until tomorrow to see what happens with the SEC.
Imagine if you and I were sitting here, 3 or 4 hours ago, and I said, B-Mac, I got some stats. I saw the spoilers. Bama is going to go 2.8 yards per carry. They're going to go, I think, 3 for 13 on third down. What do you think is going to happen? You probably go red and black confetti raining down in here.
Exactly. Yes, sir.
But while they ran for 2.8 per carry, they held Georgia under that. They held Georgia to 78 yards on the ground, and the words came out of your mouth, like I said 4 hours ago, if Georgia can't run the ball, Georgia can't win this thing, and they couldn't run the ball, and they didn't win the game. Came up just short, but that's the margin that this game is always played at between these two teams.
Alabama certainly made its case to get into the college football playoff. Georgia has made its case as well, the two-time defending national champs. Will they get a chance to defend that title? That remains to be seen. I would say probably not right now, but I'm not on the committee. What I will ask you, Josh, here is the fact that we saw Jalen Milroe against that Texas team some weeks ago in early September, and we weren't really sure about Jalen Milroe. What has he shown you through the course of this season who has turned into a Heisman contender? Will he win the Heisman? No, but he was in the conversation, and what he did on this day, this is the kind of stuff that legacies are written about.
Yeah. Hakeem, you remember a couple of weeks ago, we were up in, Corvallis, Oregon, and it was raining and it was nasty, and Michael Penix didn't have a big statistical game, but I thought it was one of his best games because he did what it took to win. That's what Milroe did today. I mean, that little pass right behind where we're sitting right now, where he just flicks it ahead for a first down inside the 20, that's as big a play as Alabama had all afternoon. It's nothing on the stat sheet. But, Hakeem, you go back to the Texas loss, and I'll do you one better or maybe one worse. He didn't play the next week, and they looked god-awful against South Florida. And if you would have shown anyone, fast forward 2 months, this team's going to be winning an SEC championship, you would have known Milroe's got to be on the verge of doing something special, but you still would have had to see it, B-Mac. And I think it's a testament to several of these receivers who stepped up. No star receiver, but several receivers stepped up. Jace McClellan out today, and yet Roydell Williams and company get the job done. Milroe did things with his legs as well. But it's just a Warriors mentality, man. They heard what people said about him. They heard folks doubt him. There was reason to doubt him, by the way. And then all they did was they got to work. Tommy Rees, first-year coordinator there. Keep that in mind as well. They did what competitors do, man. They found ways to win in the meantime. And then when they clicked down the stretch, then it looked easier, but it wasn't always easy for this team this year.
Yeah, battle-tested is the first thing I think about in regards to Jalen Milroe, as you talked about some of the hurdles he had to try to get over in the earlier part of the year, and he was super inconsistent, wasn't seeing the football field well. Remember the red zone turnovers that we were seeing from him week in and week out that led to him getting demoted at the quarterback position, but he stayed the course. He was patient. He waited for his opportunity, and when that opportunity arose, he took advantage of it and never looked back. You talked about some of the other guys that upped their ante as well, the pass catchers, the offensive line unit. What about the pros on the defensive side as well? They started playing better football. So when you talk about seeing the pros play like pros on Saturday and then playing with confidence in the way they've been coached, I wasn't surprised to see what we witnessed here tonight. Matter of fact, me and you picked Alabama. We felt like they were on the verge of doing something extremely special based on how battle-tested they've been, and then their players playing up to the level that we know they can play up to.
Well, what we saw all season was a different receiver or a running back step up. Unfortunately, we didn't see that for Georgia. Ladd McConkey banged up coming into this game. He leaves this game. And then Brock Bowers was basically taken away. Nick Saban takes away Brock Bowers as a weapon for Georgia. BMAC, when you look back for Georgia in this game, what went wrong?
Well, just the small, minor mistakes. a missed field goal early in the first half, a costly fumble in the red area for Alabama, put them in prime scoring position. They didn't score a touchdown, but they put a field goal on the board as well. And then one thing that I look back at too, right before halftime, 3rd and 22. 3rd and 22. They allow 18 yards. Now it's 4th and 4. Nick Saban is in a situation where should we punt the football, should we go for it? He rolled the dice. Big time reception, I think, by Isaiah Bond that led to a touchdown. That was huge. That was huge. That was like a momentum gainer for Alabama that led to them going into halftime with a 10-point lead and then ultimately being able to ride that wave in the second half to come out with a huge win.
And keep in mind, so if that goes the other way, if they turn it over on downs there, Georgia gets the ball with a minute and change to play with, timeouts on the board, they got plenty of time. They get the ball coming out of the half, start the third quarter, could have been a huge momentum changer. So sound point there. And then the other thing about it is when we saw this game open, we saw Georgia go right down the field and score. McConkey was involved, Bowers was involved, and it turns out that you need to see more than just one drive in a football game to know how it's going to go, because they were largely, I'm not going to call Bowers a decoy because I respect him too much, but it was obviously he was playing at far less than 100%. He's on the field because he's a warrior and because they need his presence to hopefully open other guys up. I think the key, though, is BMAC, they hit the portal last spring, and they went and got guys that they hoped would be difference makers. They still don't really have that. Arian Smith had one deep catch today, number 11, and you didn't really see him much of the game. They couldn't pop the top off the defense, and if you can't do that against Alabama, even without Kool-Aid in the game, by the way, they got guys they can roll in behind him, and they played plenty good enough defense on the back end to really never let Georgia put any scoring drives together and string momentum together.
Well, if you're a Georgia fan, you're probably sitting here a little bit frustrated with the officiating. There was the controversial catch to the end of the first half. Was it a catch? Was it not a catch? We had the horse collar call later in the game. So the officiating, you can blame that on that. But Georgia didn't do enough to win this game. And if you're Georgia, you got to find a way to win. They did not. So, Josh, when you look at this and you have Alabama as the SEC champion, how did they not get a seat at the table at the CFP?
BMAC, I think they're going to. And you know what? I was thinking about this. I was in the press conference room a second ago, and you and I were out here talking, and everyone's going to ask, do you think Alabama's in? And then if you say yes, especially contingent on what FSU does tonight, then the next question is going to be, okay, well, if they're in, who's out? I'm going to say it like this. Based on what that committee said earlier this week, they stepped in it when they said, oh, we're about the 4 best, not the 4 most deserving. At that point, it's not my job. It's their job to tell me who they're going to keep out. They stepped in. I didn't say that. I think we should do most deserving. So I think if your Knowles go on the roll tonight, I think they should be in. But if all of a sudden the committee's going to decide, no, we're not doing that anymore. We're not doing what we did with TCU last year and going off merit. We're all of a sudden going to go on what an odds maker would say, despite what we just saw Oregon have done to them again at the hands of Washington. If that's the case, Hakeem, this is the least professional answer I'll ever give you, but it's not my job. I don't have to tell you who gets left out. I just think Alabama will be in.
I agree with you. We had this scenario pre-game, and we basically agreed. If Alabama wins, they should be in. Now, granted, what happens to the Longhorn fans? Their organization, right? They beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa easily, convincingly. They feel like they would feel like they should have a seat at the table. But my argument for them would be, who had the more impressive championship win? Texas against Oklahoma State, Alabama against Georgia, right? I think that would be the deciding factor, even though Alabama lost the head-to-head. And right now, as we see it today, I think Alabama's playing better football. I think they're playing better football. Jalen Milroe is playing better at the quarterback position. The entire team in totality is playing better football. But like, as you mentioned, if Florida State wins, Michigan wins, I find it difficult to leave out a Power 5 conference champion.
Right.
Undefeated at that.
Yeah. Look, Josh, it's not my job either to tell anybody who's getting into the college football playoff. It is my job to poke the bear, to start the fire, to stir it up, because I don't see how you leave Alabama out. But again, Texas beat Alabama. So if you go on that and you go on meritocracy, Texas is in and Alabama's out. If everything serves, if everything holds, then I understand. It's Michigan, it's Washington, it's Florida State, and it's Texas. But that remains to be seen. and we will for sure have more conversations about that. Josh Pate, Bryant McFadden, the Chaos Crew, once again strikes on CBS and CBS Sports HQ. Hey, you want more awesome college football content? Join Josh Pate on The Late Kick 3 times a week on YouTube, 8 Eastern Time. You can also get the podcast version as well. The Late Kick with Josh Pate.